My name is Kathleen Alexander. I'm at Riverside Elementary School in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I teach third graders this year and last year. They're approximately 9 years old. I've been teaching for 28.1 years. The activity that we did today dealt with graphing. That's one of our standards for the Grand Rapids Public Schools, which is the learner will graph information. We began by using our previous knowledge, which we have graphed some things before. We graphed human beings and just brought that concept over into graphing with the M&Ms that we did today. They sorted them, they counted them, they made a graph of them, and then we brought that information to the computer lab where they made a spreadsheet of the information and decided which one of the graphs that they thought would be best to represent the information that they did have. The goals for this particular activity was for the students to realize that information needs to be collected, sorted, that they have to organize the information, to record it, and to be able to interpret the information. And once they have interpreted the information, to see if they can make any predictions that might be appropriate for that particular data that they have. One of the things that we use to assess the students is a rubric to see if they've worked cooperatively with their group, to see if they participated, and the actual spreadsheet section of it is so they can see if they have the criteria that we have asked them to put on the spreadsheet. In the previous grades, they do things with pictograms, and then when they come to third grade, we're ready for the bar graphs and for them to be able to interpret the information, to record the information. This is approximately a 12-day unit that we do on graphing. And we do the hands-on, we do the actual physical attributes that we did the other day that the students really thought was very fun and interesting, and it helped them to get the concept into their heads a little bit more. We try to make connections with everything in our lives, and that's why we did the looking at what we wore, as in one of the graphs that we did. We looked at shoes, and then they make some kind of inference about if other third graders would have the same types of shoes that they had on. Also, being African American, I like to, in any way, shape, or form, bring in our diversity, and that's why when we were looking at our eye color, I did bring in the fact that if they were in a school that was predominantly African American, there would be a major difference, so we could not make the generalization that most third grade students do have blue eyes. So I want them to be aware of that. I think with third graders, you have to choose the strategy where they become very involved in their learning process. And with the grouping, when I group with my particular classroom this year, I have to group in twos. I cannot group in threes or fours. And that lets them accomplish more with their partner rather than in a group. They're able to remain on task, but they're still involved in the learning process. I think this particular activity allowed the students to be very involved in their learning, to be very engaged, and the hands-on was there. The feedback, because I do have another teacher in my classroom, there are 31 students, I have her for approximately an hour a day, that allows more frequent feedback than they would receive if there were just one individual. Teacher behavior. Mrs. Waback and I do work very well together. We work as a team. I'm fortunate to have her in my classroom, which allows our students to get much more. We both have experience as teachers, quite a few years of experience. The knowledge of our students, I believe, helped her to know when there were students who were off task. We're constantly observing our students and being able to help them to get back on task, and that's from knowing who they are and what they are and how they're going to react in certain situations. With our grouping, some of the groups were a little iffy there, but because we did have people who were not here today, we had to substitute and then hopefully let the groups kind of work it out themselves. But when they can't, we definitely do step in any way. I believe that when students know that there are expectations for them, that if there is inappropriate behavior, that it will be addressed.